Hi everyone. So as I said in the previous video, there are a few things that we need to talk about. Now the first thing is the codes that we found in our second episode after it was replaced and all my video files were deleted. The second thing is the piece of paper that was left next to Daniel when he woke up. The third thing is Daniel himself, only because he's not here at the moment. I'm going to have to interview him at a later date. So, let's start with the first one. These codes. These bloody codes. Now, I must admit that I had given up. I'd given up quite badly, actually. The code that I posted on Tumblr was actually my old code. I'd used it in a program that I'd written about 2 years ago for university. So I was kind of cheating there, and the only reason I put them up is because the output was quite similar. Turns out I was right on the money though. When this person had accessed my computer to delete my files and recompile my video, they'd also been mucking about with all of my program files. Now, I had about 6 or 7 different builds of the algorithm that I eventually did use to form these encryption patterns. And they happened to choose one which I'd completely forgotten about, which is why the other ones didn't work. The thing is about them is that they are very, very fiddly. The hash key array can be a variable size. Now they chose a very specific size, which is what I originally used, but changed throughout my different iterations of the program. And another thing I didn't know is whether they used 1 or 2 encryption key codes. I now know it's 2. Now how do I know, you might ask? I was playing with some development boards at the start of last year. I received them as part of a competition that I won on the Element 14 electronics forums. And I wanted to give them a go, but it turns out they didn't come with the drivers that I needed. So I tried looking around with the source code, trying to find the drivers online, couldn't find them. So I left the source code on my desktop. Now, I'd kind of forgotten about the dev boards until about a week ago, when I realised I should actually probably do something with them. So I tried looking around again, and then I remembered that I had the source code. Then I thought I might be able to build the source code. And I look in the folder, which I haven't even looked at for about a year, and there's a folder in there with today's date. Okay, now you'll see in a moment that today's date is the 17th of January 2014, but it's not a recently made folder. The folder's last opening date, or the last date of alteration, was the day before the edited version of episode 2 was re-uploaded onto YouTube by our unknown assailant, or whatever you might want to call them. I don't really know. So, yeah. Alright, so I have now compiled the program that I wrote in code blocks. As you can see, it's just pretty much the same looking format as the one I posted online, just slightly different. If you have a look here, you can see we've got the code that was left in episode 2 for us. What we're going to do now is decrypt it. ep2encrypt.text. I'll just make page.text, that'll do. Now, the codes. This is where it gets interesting. Now, as someone pointed out, the message left at the bottom of the video was murderer, obviously in leet speak, because the person who's giving us this is a complete idiot. But going by the clue, I would say that they're either talking about a murderer that they know themselves, or the murderer of the person who we're talking about in the episode, i.e. Frederick Fisher. So, we're going to go for George Worrell. Alright, now I don't know if it takes into account uppercase, lowercase, so I'm going to try a few different things here. We'll just try lowercase first, because that's most likely. 2 L's. Alright, see how that goes. And we get garbled. All caps. Charge. I'm really hoping it's not in elite speed, because that would really piss me off. I spelled it wrong, didn't I? Gotta be kidding me. P2 crypt.text. No. Let's actually try spelling it how it's supposed to be spelled. I know it sounds crazy, but... Alrighty then. Here we go. Oh. Oh. I guess that solves that mystery. Well, at least now we know how it's done. I'll post this program up so that you guys can try and have a chance of decrypting the others. I'll post up the instructions of how I did this one as well. It's basically put it in a text file like this, then you put in the file name, and then you put in just a random file name. Make sure it's got .txt at the end of it so that you can actually read it. Then you put in the code separated by a space. So, the second thing that we're going to talk about is the piece of paper that was left next to Daniel. Now, Daniel's fine. Just so you know, thank you for the people that did ask. Daniel is perfectly fine. I've been checking up on him. I saw him on New Year's Day, actually, and like I said, perfectly fine. That night was just really fucked up. And he still doesn't remember what happened. I mean, we're going to have we'll talk to him obviously and we'll find out exactly, but from my conversations with him, he doesn't remember a bloody thing. So, because we were concerned about him, obviously we didn't really take any notice of it, but next to him was this piece of paper. If you have a look nice and close, you can see that it says, in the same typeface as the letter we received, a gift. Now this time they haven't opted to put any numbers in there, meaning the other one was actually probably a code. So we'll try and figure that out later. But the little card thing, I can tell you for sure that that's a 64 megabyte. Again, they're going for small capacities here because they're really old cards. Sony M2 card, you usually find these in some old Sony phones and some cameras. I mean, my brand new camera still takes M2 cards, just not these really tiny ones. So, we're going to have a look. I haven't actually looked on this yet, so we're going to have a look at that now. Alright, so I'm at Daniel's place now. We're about to do the interview thing. I'm just waiting for him to get back home. He's just dropping back from university. He was at rehearsals today for a play that he's going to be in. I'm actually going to go see it. Sounds pretty interesting. But yeah, that's why it's been so hard to get a hold of him. He's been reading over his lines and he's been trying to prepare for this. So yeah, really just didn't want to get in the way. So he's going to get his dinner. We're going to meet up and do this. Okay, so Daniel, we've had a few of our viewers quite concerned about what happened in the garage. So I've got a couple of questions that I've had sent to me. The first one is, what do you remember of the events? Because I kind of mentioned that you didn't remember much, but people are asking for elaborations on it. So what do you actually remember from what happened that night?
Well, I remember the movie going out, and then you didn't have a light. So I went out into the garage and Went to flip the circuit breakers, and then I don't really remember what happened after that. Well, no, they were all on. I remember that.
Wait. So the circuit breakers were on.
Yeah.
So second question that we had, when we found you in the garage, there was a piece of paper lying on the floor next to you. Do you remember or recognise that piece of paper from anywhere?
I don't know what it looked like. I didn't know there was a piece of paper there.
Okay, it was like old school computer paper. How it's got those holes on the side of it to allow it to go
just
to a printer.
like perforated.
Yeah, yeah. It's like old perforated computer paper. It had the words "a gift" with 2 forward slashes on it, and it had an SD card or similar type of card stuck to it.
Well, I mean, I've seen those things in my life, but I guess not the particular ones.
Okay, so it doesn't ring a bell at all?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No
The last thing that I've had a lot of people ask actually is, how are you? Because...
people care.
Yeah, people care. It's really weird. That's the whole thing about being on the internet. People actually care about you.
Yeah,
But-
fun.
Yeah, people have been really vehemently asking, has anything been happening in your personal life? Have you been have you had any nosebleeds, headaches? How are you feeling mentally or headache? Yeah, when did you ever? How long ago was that?
Like 2 days ago.
Okay, so it would the thing happened like weeks and weeks ago. So
So probably not related.
yeah.
I got actually out on a date.
Oh,
I don't think that counts as a...
that might count as psychological, but that's positive, not negative. So
Yeah, true.
yeah.